In 1989, a Texas businessman bought a losing football team for $150 million. People thought he had wildly overpaid. Today, that same team is worth around $13 billion. He didn't get rich selling tickets or hot dogs or jerseys. He got rich owning something far rarer than a football team. He got rich owning a seat in the most exclusive, most protected, most quietly rigged club in all of business. This is the economics of owning a professional sports franchise, and it breaks almost every rule we have covered on this channel. Because for the last several videos, we have watched the person who owns the business take all the risk while someone else quietly walks away with the money. Today, for once, we meet the owner who is the winner. And to understand why, you have to stop thinking about sports entirely. Here's the first thing to understand. When you buy a team like the Dallas Cowboys or the Los Angeles Lakers, you are not really buying a football or a basketball business. You are buying a share in a cartel. Think about what a major sports league actually is. There are exactly 32 teams in the NFL. Not 33, not 40, 32, and there will only ever be about 32 because the existing owners decide who gets in, and they almost never let anyone build a competing team. There is no startup that can challenge them. There is no new league that springs up overnight and steals their market. There is no risk that a smarter competitor drives them out of business. The number of teams is frozen by design. That single fact, artificial and permanent scarcity, is the foundation of the entire fortune. In any normal industry, high profits attract competitors who pile in and compete those profits away. Open a wildly successful restaurant, and 3 more open across the street within a year. In this one, the competition is essentially not allowed to exist. The owners collectively hold the keys, and the only way in is for one of them to sell you their seat at whatever staggering price the market will bear. They have built a wall around their business and pulled up the ladder behind them. And behind that wall, something remarkable happens to the price. There is a second layer of protection too, and it is almost stranger than the first. The owners share a huge portion of their revenue with each other. It sounds like the opposite of capitalism, and in a way it is. A tiny market team in a small city collects nearly the same national money as the giant in the biggest city. This is sometimes described only half-jokingly as socialism for billionaires. What it really does is guarantee that no team can fail, no team goes bankrupt, and no team ever has to be sold in a fire sale that would drag values down. They have removed downside risk from the business almost entirely and shared it away among themselves. Because the real money in owning a team was never the operating profit. It is the appreciation. The value of these franchises rises year after year, almost no matter what happens on the field. The average NFL team is now worth around $7 billion. Every single one of the 32, even the worst run, worst performing team in the entire league, is worth at least $5 billion. And in one recent year alone, those values jumped by roughly 25%. Go back to that Cowboys number for a second. $150 million in 1989 to around $13 billion today. That is not a football team appreciating. That is a scarce, monopoly-protected asset compounding relentlessly for decades. The kind of return that would embarrass most professional investors. The owner could have fielded a mediocre team almost every year and still become spectacularly richer simply by holding the seat and waiting. And it is not just the old famous teams. Consider a more recent example. In 2014, a technology billionaire paid $2 billion for a basketball team, the Los Angeles Clippers. At the time, people gasped at the price. It seemed impossibly high for a team that had never won anything of real importance. Only a few years later, that same franchise was valued at several times what he paid. He did not buy a winning tradition. He bought a permanent seat in a closed league, and the seat did what these seats reliably do. It went up. That is the pattern, over and over. The team can be bad. The city can be small. The scarcity does the heavy lifting. And while the asset quietly compounds in the background, it pays its owner an enormous income for doing very little. Because of the second engine, the media rights. The NFL sells the right to broadcast its games as one gigantic package. The current deal is worth around $110 billion, spread over 11 years, which works out to roughly $10 billion every single year, flowing in from television networks and streaming giants. And here is the crucial part. That money is pooled and then split more or less evenly among all of the teams. So before a single ticket is sold, Before a single beer is poured, every team in the league is handed a fortune. In a recent year, each club received somewhere around $440 million from the league office. National media money, sponsorships, and shared revenue just for existing. Win the championship or finish dead last, the check is almost exactly the same. It is one of the most guaranteed streams of income anywhere in business, and it lands in the owner's lap by mail. Now, running a team does cost real money, so here is the third piece of the machine, and this is where the public quietly enters the story. Because very often, the owner does not even pay for the single most expensive thing the team needs, the stadium. Over the years, taxpayers across the country have poured tens of billions of dollars into building and renovating stadiums for privately owned, wildly profitable sports teams. The pitch to a city is always the same: jobs, prestige, economic growth, and the threat underneath the pitch is always the same too. Build us a new stadium, or we move the team to a city that will. Fans do not want to lose their team, so politicians rarely call the bluff. The reality is usually that the public funds the building, and the billionaire owner keeps the revenue that flows through it, along with all the value it adds to his franchise. Study after study by economists has found that these stadiums almost never deliver the economic boom that was promised. The gains are private. The costs are handed to the taxpayer. It is one of the great wealth transfers hiding in plain sight, dressed up as civic pride. And what about the people who actually produce the product, the athletes themselves? Surely they capture the value that they create. And yes, they are paid a great deal of money. But here too, the structure quietly protects the owner, because the leagues impose a salary cap, a hard ceiling on what each team is allowed to spend on its players. The very people whose bodies are the entire show, who risk devastating injury, and whose careers often last only a few short years, are limited by rule in what they can earn. The cap exists, in large part, to protect the owner's profit margins from their own bidding wars against each other. And in some leagues, it goes even further. In football, most contracts are not even fully guaranteed. A player can sign for a huge headline number, get seriously hurt, and be released without ever seeing most of it. The average career lasts only a few years. The body pays the price for a lifetime, and the pay is capped at both ends. The workers are capped, the owners are not, and then comes the final flourish. The tax code. When a billionaire buys a team, the law lets them treat much of that purchase price as a wasting asset, as if the players and the brand were slowly rusting away like a piece of factory equipment, and write it down against their other income for years to come. On paper, a franchise that is actually soaring in value can be booked as a loss, sheltering a completely separate fortune earned somewhere else entirely from tax. The team goes up, the tax bill goes down. It is a loophole so specific and so generous that it might as well have been written for exactly this one situation. And then, years later, they sell the team to the next billionaire for far more than they paid. And the whole cycle simply begins again. So let's step back and ask the question this channel always asks. In this whole glittering machine, who actually profits? For once, the answer is beautifully simple. The owner, every single one of them. The scarcity guarantees the asset rises. The media deal guarantees the income. The taxpayer very often builds the stadium. The salary cap holds down the single biggest cost. And the tax code shelters the whole thing from the government. Every force in this entire business points in the same direction, toward the one person holding the franchise. And who pays for all of it? The fans through ever-rising ticket prices and cable and streaming bills. The players who create the value but have their pay capped by rule. And the taxpayers who fund the very palaces these teams play in. In this business, uniquely, the owner is not the one taking the risk. The owner is the house. So should you want to own a professional sports franchise? If you can somehow afford it, it is arguably the single greatest trophy asset on the entire planet. A near guaranteed appreciating asset, a guaranteed annual income stream, a taxpayer-subsidized home, a capped workforce, and a personal tax shelter, all wrapped inside a cartel that can never be competed away. It is about as close to a licensed money machine as capitalism will ever allow. There is just one catch, and it is an enormous one. The entry ticket now costs billions of dollars. This is not a business that you build from nothing. It is a club that you buy your way into, and only a few dozen people on the entire planet ever actually can. Worth owning? For the tiny handful who can afford the price of admission, it is a 10 out of 10. The rare business where the rules are quietly written in the owner's favor from every single direction. And that is the real lesson hiding underneath the scoreboard. The best business to own is almost never the one that you run the best. It is the one where the game itself has been rigged for whoever simply holds the seat. I'm Mogul Math. Pick a business, we'll do the math.